We have all kinds of NHL news and rumors to take a look at here in today's video. We got lots of trade talk around teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, Pittsburgh Penguins, the Florida Panthers, New Jersey Devils. Plus, we also have some talk around the Chicago Blackhawks as well, and the Edmonton Oilers. Some updates on some contract extensions, including guys like Luke Evangelista, Marty Necas in Colorado. What's the latest there? We're going to discuss a little bit further the Kaprizov extension that came about here earlier today. We have over 20 players on waivers again. Some updates around the Olympics and some key dates to watch throughout the season, and some key injury updates and some players released from their PTOs. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we've got lots to talk about here today. It's been a very newsworthy day. Of course, we got the news early today about the massive contract extension between the Minnesota Wild and Kirill Kaprizov, which I did want to touch on again here because we do know a little bit more about the structure of the deal. That deal came pretty early today. We got the word that he's signing for 8 years, $17 million per season. It's a crazy number. We had heard that he had rejected the 8-year, $16 million per year offer that was offered about a week to 10 days ago. And, well, here we are. Minnesota had to up the ante a little bit. They did. He accepted it. And now here we are. So with Kaprizov's contract extension, he does have a full no move throughout the entire duration, which is not surprising. And the bulk of this money is paid out in signing bonuses. He has like $1 million salary in every year. The first 4 years of the deal, he gets a signing bonus of $18.1 million. And then that takes us to 2030, where he gets a signing bonus of $16 million, $1 million salary. 2031, he gets a $14.2 million bonus with $1 million salary, and then the final 2 years, 32 and 33, he gets a $12.7 million signing bonus and a $1 million salary as well. So this is a crazy amount of money. Obviously, Kaprizov kind of had Minnesota in a vulnerable spot. They had to overpay to get him. Most projections based on the cap, and if you look at like AFB Analytics and some of the top analytic people, they had his number around $15 million based on a rising cap. So Minnesota definitely, I think it's fair to say they overpaid here, but obviously, like I said before in the other video, a huge part of this also is the rising cap, and it's going to be rising at a astronomical rate compared to what we've had the last 4 or 5 years after having a flat cap for a big chunk of that period of time. So the Kaprizov contract is the richest in NHL history, both in terms of the AAV and the total number of dollars. So that's obviously going to have an impact on some other players around the NHL, and we'll get into some of those contract extensions and where things stand a little bit later. But first I want to touch on a huge number of players again today facing the waiver wire. The NHL waivers have a lot of news here today. About 22 players in total, I believe, if I counted correctly. We have the Carolina Hurricanes with a bunch, including Josiah Slavin, Gavin Bayreuther, Noel Gunler, Tyson Jost, and Ryan Suzuki. We've got the Calgary Flames of Clark Bishop, Dryden Hunt, Jan Kuznetsov, and Sam Morton. The Edmonton Oilers have goalie Matt Tompkins. The Philadelphia Flyers have Anthony Richard. The New York Islanders have goalie Marcus Hogberg and forward Matthew Highmore. The Rangers have young forward Brendan Brisson and Connor Mackey on waivers today. The San Jose Sharks with a bunch as well. Shane Bowers, Jimmy Huntington, Sam LaBerge, Oscar Olofsson, and Jakob Skarek. And the Winnipeg Jets have a couple of players, including Tyrell Bauer and Isaac Phillips. So all these players will be on waivers and be available to be picked up for 24 hours until tomorrow. I'm not sure we're going to see any claims. We'll have to see. Nobody that was on waivers yesterday ended up getting picked up. Now, a bunch of other news today. We'll start with some PTOs. The Carolina Hurricanes today, besides cutting a roster down by putting a bunch of these guys on waivers and assigning a bunch more to the minor leagues, but they've also released defenseman Oliver Shillington and forward Kevin LeBanc, who were in camp on a PTO, so they're not going to be getting signed by the Hurricanes. A couple of big injury updates that we learned about today as well. We knew Nils Hoglander at the Canucks was hurt. That is now a little bit more detailed. We know it's a lower body injury. He needed surgery, and he's going to be out 8 to 10 weeks. So that's going to be around 2.5 months. So he's likely going to miss October and November and likely be back sometime early to mid-December. So that's going to really be a big blow for him, for sure. Obviously, a player that's, kind of relied upon as a good secondary scorer. So Hoglander missing a lot of the season. Not good news for himself or the team. The Minnesota Wild also got some bad news today as well. Matt Zuccarello, the veteran player, is going to be out 7 to 8 weeks with a lower body injury. So that's also not good news. That's a long-term injury situation there. Now, some key updates and dates to keep in mind, too, around the Olympics. And then we'll get into all the rumors around the league. Now, with the Olympics, we know that, of course, the actual games take place in February. So the NHL's Olympic break is February 6th to the 24th. The actual tournament is the 11th to the 22nd. So, of course, they will get, obviously, some days to get over there and get settled and situated and all that. And then they have 2 days off after the Olympics to come back and get settled back in North America and get ready to get back to NHL action. Now, there is another update coming up here, though. Of course, in October, as we mentioned, just the next week or so, they have to submit all teams have to submit their rosters, 42 skaters and 5 goalies. And then in December the 31st is when they have to commit to their rosters that are going to actually be attending the games, which is 22 skaters and 3 goalies as well. So that's obviously coming right up. So we're going to probably, I suspect, I'm not sure if all have been made public or not, but the 42 skaters, 5 goalie deadline here is just coming up ahead of the NHL regular season. Now, a bunch of rumors around the NHL that we want to take a look at, a lot of which came from Frank Saravalli today, but a few other tidbits from other insiders. We'll start with Dave Pagnotta, fourthperiod.com. New article today, again, expressing that the Maple Leafs are looking to move some bodies out of the forward group. He said they're, at this point, they're trying to move Calle Järnkrok, David Kampf, and Nick Robertson all on the trade block. They've obviously had a tough time. We had heard yesterday, which we talked about, Robertson maybe getting some interest from the Sharks. So we'll see about that. But those 3 players definitely don't appear to be in the long-term plans here for Toronto. And it's a matter of time they could end up on waivers. I would think Nick Robertson would be less likely to be on waivers, but Kampf or Järnkrok wouldn't be completely shocking if they were here sometime before the season gets underway. With the new contract for Kirill Kaprizov, definitely some guys that are getting close to getting other deals done are kind of being examined here now and how it's going to affect them. But Frank Saravalli indicates that he does expect Jack Eichel in Vegas to still get something done before the season gets underway. Expectations are he won't go as high as Kaprizov, probably looking at somewhere in that $13.5, $14 million range. So that's where things are rumored to be, and expectations are that Jack will get something done ahead of the regular season. With McDavid, there's still belief it's going to be a short-term deal, 2, 3, 4 years. Won't come as high as Kaprizov either. I'm going to suggest it's probably in a $14 million range as well. Now, Frank Saravalli had mentioned yesterday he wondered about the fact that the deferred money option is going to be going away when the regular season gets underway. He wondered if the Oilers and McDavid might be looking at that. Chris Johnson tonight on TSN Insider Trading said he doesn't believe that's the case, that it's not going to be that type of structure for the McDavid contract. So we'll see. Obviously, difference of opinions there amongst NHL insiders. Now, Frank Saravalli also reporting today that the Chicago Blackhawks are definitely working to find a new home for younger forward Lukas Reichel. Now, it's believed that the Oilers just might be a good landing spot for Lukas Reichel. We know that, for one, they're looking to get younger. They're looking to add some younger talent and skill. And Stan Bowman, the GM of the Oilers, used to work for the Blackhawks, would have been around when they drafted him, so certainly somebody he's familiar with. I don't know what the asking price is going to be, but the Hawks are actively working to find a new home and a fresh start for forward Lukas Reichel. So we'll see where that goes. Now, Sarah Valley today also talked about getting Malkin, wondering with the situation with the Florida Panthers if Malkin will end up becoming a Panther before the season's end by the NHL trade deadline. I wonder what the Panthers are going to do. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked here if they kind of wait and take the patient approach here, wondering, is there any chance Barkov can come back? Because if he can, you don't want to have him be available but can't play because of the new rules. That's if they spend his money and get the full cap hit relief from the NHL, then he's done and can't come back in the playoffs. So clearly that's something they need to be careful with. But you have to think with Malkin, like Sarah Valley makes a good point here, like I said before as well. He does have a home in Miami. He spends a lot of time in his offseason there. If Malkin were to move from the Pittsburgh Penguins, you have to think that the Panthers would be right at the very top of his list. And given the injury to Barkov, it just seems like out of all the guys out there, he might be the most logical that they look to as a potential trade option. But again, we don't know what Bill Zito and the Florida Panthers options are, or what their options are weighing, what they're going to move forward with here. Clearly, like I said, they still have a good team, even without Barkov, even without Tkachuk. But clearly, are they going to want to add a body early to make sure they're in a better position to three-peat? Hard to say. But Malkin just might be that guy, and you have to think if he does have interest to move, that would be where he would want to go. Chris Johnson's reporting today that there has been some progress between the Predators and Luke Evangelista. He says they're within $1 million of each other now. I know a lot of people were saying that they're likely using the Jack Quinn contract as a comparable. I don't understand what Barry Trotz is doing here as a GM. You would think they would just, on a 2-year deal, was what they're talking about. Can they not get him signed for somewhere in that like $2.5 to $3.5 million range and just get this kid into camp? They don't have a lot of younger players that are producing at a higher level. Evangelista has been a decent player for them. I know he hasn't been exactly, lighting it up, not like he's playing at an all-star level or anything, but he's going to continue to get better. He's still young, still maturing, still developing. Hard to imagine why there's such a huge gap, but according to what CJ's report says, that sounds like they make some progress, but still have a ways to go. Now, Sarah Valley also talked about today, wondering about Marty Necas' future with the Avalanche. Now, he's not saying that the Avalanche are going to trade him. He's not saying that Necas won't sign, but just wondering based on negotiations, because this is what happened last year. They started negotiations with Rantanen. Things didn't go well. They went into the season, and then once they kind of got far enough along, they're like, okay, signing this guy is not going to work for us based on what we want to do here, where we want to keep the contract, and they ended up trading him. Could they end up in the same boat doing the same thing with Necas? You have to wonder if it's certainly a possibility. A lot of that's going to depend on these negotiations, which at this point haven't produced enough common ground to get a contract done. And the other big question, like we've heard with some of these guys, is does Necas want to be there? He's been quite particular in where he wants to be and what he wants to get paid, where he wants to play and all that. So I'm not sure, but I do think Necas is a player in Colorado that we need to pay attention to this year that wouldn't be shocking to find himself here kind of on the move. Sarah Valley also talked about on his Bleacher Report video today, talking about Dougie Hamilton in New Jersey, wondering whether or not, he said it could be early in the season, it could be mid, it could be late. Sometime between now and the deadline, things are going to ramp up where you start to hear a lot about the future of Dougie Hamilton with the Devils, especially once Luke Hughes' contract is settled. Obviously, the Devils might have to make a trade of some sort immediately. They might be able to put it off a little bit because of long-term relief on the Kovacevic contract. So it just depends on where negotiations finish and where this contract ends up. But Hamilton is going to be a name that's likely going to get more and more interesting and generate more and more talking points as the season goes along. It certainly seems likely that with the emergence of Luke Hughes and a new contract, that it's going to result in them talking to him about moving along in a trade of some sort here in the not-too-distant future. And Frank was also wondering today about Marc-Andre Fleury. He had his time with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He got to go in, get to pull some pranks, play with another preseason game to retire basically as a Penguin with his buddies, Malkin, Crosby, Letang. But he still says he wonders if there's a chance he will still come back, saying that he knows for certain that teams are going to reach out. There's not a lot of quality NHL goalies that are going to be available on the trade market this year, or even that wasn't available on the free agent market. So, he wonders if a team like Edmonton, if they're not happy with their tandem, is there any chance they could convince Fleury to come out of retirement? Now, if they're going to do that, I would think that they'd want to do it by the midway point of the season, so we'd make sure he had lots of time to get integrated with the team and to get some reps in, so that by the time they get to the playoffs that he's ready. Clearly, he would have to be on a roster before the trade deadline anyway to be eligible to play in the postseason. So we'll have to see where this goes. But like we had heard right around a few days ago when Fleury was having his retirement game, as much as the fans would like to see it, Fleury did, because he was asked, because there was a lot of one more year chance during that game in Pittsburgh. And he said that he was honored by the fans saying that, but essentially that his hips hurt and that he's tired and was ready to go home, basically. So I don't know that it sounds like he really was anxious to come out of retirement, really, but if teams are going to be calling, you have to think he might, after a few months away, maybe get that itch to play again. Hard to say. We will have to wait and see. I'm sure we will hear some speculation throughout the season at the very least on teams asking if he wanted to. Doesn't mean he will, of course, but we'll be curious to see if Edmonton could be one of those teams. I think they're going to be a very interesting team to see how things go as they try to get back to the Stanley Cup final for a third consecutive year and hopefully win one this time. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.